Welcome to the Top Dog Mindset Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of running a successful dog training business. I'm your host, Kevin, joined by my co-host, Angel. Together, we bring you expert insights, inspiring stories, and practical tips. Whether you're a seasoned pro or just starting out, we're here to provide you with the necessary information to build a thriving dog training company. So relax, join us with a cup of coffee as we explore the Top Dog Mindset Podcast.
All right, welcome in everybody to another episode of the Top Dog Mindset Podcast. Kevin and Angel here. And we got some exciting things going on inside of Top Dog Advertising this week. And I just kind of want to run you guys through like our business and like what's going on over here, just because I feel like people like seeing the inside of the company that they're working with and all that stuff. And we talk and give advice all the time. And I feel like it's just kind of a cool thing to even sometimes just kind of share with people like what we're doing, because I feel like sometimes that may inspire somebody to think like, oh, that could be helpful for me as well. So I'll get into that in one second. But Angel, first and foremost, how are you doing this week and what's going on for you? What do you have going on?
I'm doing really good this week. I think the last time, maybe it was the last episode we talked about talked a little bit about how busy it's been over here with like growing the team and a bunch of new clients coming on and stuff like that. This week has been a little bit more chill, so it's been a nice little change of pace. I like weeks like this because it kind of allows me to like shift my focus into other things that I've been really wanting to focus on and, kind of like clean up and organize and stuff like that. So it's been a really good week. Um, Especially considering like everything that is going on behind the scenes. It just felt a little more calm.
Yeah. Why don't you share what you're working on? Because I know you're super proud of that. So why don't you tell everybody what you got going on?
Yeah. So there's been a couple things on my list in terms of like projects and whatnot, but like one of those things being a system that we've implemented this year, especially like as we're growing, our team is growing, client base is growing and stuff like that. So we really needed a way to just keep track of things a little bit better in terms of like growth and churn rate and things like that. And so with this system that we built out in the beginning of the year, that was something I wanted to put a little bit more focus into, because there might have been like a month where a slight detail was missed or maybe not put in correctly, or just as a company, we might have had a week that was a little crazier. And so it affected being able to update certain things within that system. So that was a big project that I wanted to shift my focus on. And it was one of those things where like, it's not something that I just want to dedicate a little time here and there, each day until it's all finished. Like it was one of those things where I really need to like sit down, no one interrupt me, and work on this entire thing. And I'm glad I did, because I spent a couple of hours on it yesterday. But yeah, while I was going through that, I ended up finding a few other things that needed to be fixed too. So I ended up doing a lot of changes. I had to do a lot of like cross-checking and um redoing the math for everything. And yeah, so it's something that's like really going to help us long term with being able to keep track of those things like client retention and stuff like that. But especially since our client success team has grown, and we have multiple coaches tending to all of our clients, so it's just something that's going to help long term. But it's funny because when we were talking this morning and I was explaining to you how proud I am of this, and I told you that if you go and look at it, it's probably going to look the same, but trust me, so much freaking work went into this. It took me a really long time, and I'm so proud of it.
Yeah, there's legitimately like nothing worse than like pouring your heart and soul into something to just have someone feel like, what'd you do? It looks pretty much exactly the same,
I know. So I had to get ahead and explain that to you before anything like that was said.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think it's cool that you're doing all that, and it's going to be super, super helpful. And, just to touch on that for a second, what I had recognized for Top Dog Advertising is like in our growth, we needed to become way more analytical just in making sure that we're like on target and growing and stuff like that. You can get pretty far in a business, depending on how you define pretty far, just kind of growing off of like good vibes and working hard and stuff like that. But at a certain point, like it just becomes too hard to manage that. And the mood swings and the emotional roller coaster of that, like good month, bad month, and not really being able to see like what's actually happening. So just to give
Mhm.
everyone like a background, what more specifically what Angel's working on here is just a tracker to really track like client success, client happiness, how long people are sticking around for, what causes people to leave, what causes like our best clients to, what they're doing to like really stick around for a long time. Like what does our client ideal client avatar look like, all that stuff. And I think by doing that, it just gives you a lot more clarity on your business on what actually works and what doesn't. And it's funny because this morning actually how I was spending my time, because we're adding a new team member in the next couple weeks here, which is super exciting. But what I'm doing is really mapping out what our ideal client profile looks like, our ICP as it's referred to. And you can get crazy granular with it. And what I've always had to resist with this is like you can feel like you're really pigeonholing yourself, and by saying like I only work with people who fit into this category, right? And for us, like who we really love working with are dog trainers that are making, have some success already, but they're not doing 50 grand a month. We work with those people. We work with people all the time that help them go from 50 to 100K a month, 100 to 150, so on and so forth. But I would say like our bread and butter is really working with dog trainers who have a couple kennels at their house. They like to take on like 2, 3 board and trains a month. They're looking to make anywhere between like 10 to 20 to 30 grand a month. And they can do that between a couple board and trains and filling in the rest with like private lessons. They're cool doing in-person consultations, all that stuff. People like that, like we can just help those people crush in business, And so yeah, I'm really getting like clear on that, because when you get clear on that stuff, then your marketing can get way more clear and your sales process gets a lot more clear, because you can specifically speak to those people like, hey, are you this person? Like I was talking to this guy recently and he was talking about he used to own a gym, and this is before he got into the marketing world, but he years ago owned this CrossFit gym. And basically he got served this ad back when Alex Hormozy was still running Gym Launch. And the ad was like, do you own a 1,000 square foot CrossFit gym and you have this many trainers and you're trying to fill this many classes? And he's like, I saw that ad, and he's like, yeah, that's exactly what I'm looking for. That's exactly who I am. And so the marketing messaging was like so spot on that it just like made the process of getting him like interested in the ad to booking a call to signing up just that much easier. And I think so many of us just like when it comes to growing a business and finding your clients or finding your next hire and stuff like that, you're just like, again, you're just kind of bro scaling the business and you're like doing it off of like good vibes. Like, I feel like that this is working. I feel like it's not working. And unless you have any sort of data supporting that on the back end, it can work for a period of time, but it's going to become very hard to scale that.
Mhm. Yeah. And in terms of like the ideal client profile, I feel like this is something that I've kind of witnessed change over time.
hmm
Um,
They talk to me about that. How is this manifesting for you? Am I doing a better job or a worse job?
a much better job. Not that
Okay.
you ever did a terrible job, but it's just like I mean, we've had conversations over the years and just things that like we've noticed when hiring on certain clients and then how that entire relationship goes. But it's like when you hire someone and then like right off the bat you start learning about them and their business and what they're willing to do and what they're like dead set on not being willing to do, and open-mindedness versus just being like very stuck in their ways. Like we've noticed a trend with certain clients like that. And then again, we just like have had conversations about it and I've noticed that change over the years. And so it's helping me, or it's helped me get a better understanding of being like more mindful, or I guess like sensitive of those things when I'm learning a new client in the beginning. And I think assuming same thing with you too.
Yeah, well, I think if you don't really have your like ideal client avatar selected, and by the way, it doesn't need to be one person. They don't need to like look like this, talk like this, and have this type of dog or something like that, or have this type of business. Like there's a type of person. There's like an archetype, right? And but that's kind of like a spectrum. Like it can be on this side of the spectrum or this side. And we help people all the time that like only do private lessons, but it's like, okay, if this, then this almost. So it's
Hmm.
like you do private lessons but you sell high ticket programs, right?
Hmm.
And you don't focus on working with everybody and selling, single session programs or lessons. You focus on selling high ticket results based programs. Like we can still help you, but to me, like really the sweet spot is people who can do some board and trains, private lessons. But again, we have a client, like one of our clients, Emily, who's coming to mind right now, who crushes with just private lessons. So it's like you can do that, but you just need to still fit within that ICP.
Yeah, it's like I feel like it comes down to a matter of like goals, mindset, and your a little bit of like what your current business model is. But I think like the biggest things would be goals and mindset. Are your goals like realistic as far as like what we're able to help with?
Mm-hmm.
But do you have the mindset to be like open minded enough to take the suggestions and follow our program and do the things that we know are going to help you because we've done it with hundreds of other people and seen it work?
Totally, totally. I'm starting to laugh, by the way, just because when I said ICP, I immediately came to mind for me, like, is that did I do the right acronym? Because whenever I hear ICP, I think of Insane Clown Posse. Do you remember that band from like the
Yes.
90s and 2000s? Yeah. So,
Yes.
like, do me a favor. If anyone's watching this and you know what I'm talking about, put the keyword juggalo down below. And that way I know you're watching. But yeah, it's important to define this stuff because if you just try and serve everybody and you just end up serving nobody, and you're like, I could take on this person and this person. I'll never forget, like, one of our most successful clients only did pet obedience in home training, and he has a business where he makes six figures a month, and in an effort to try and serve everybody, like here's a good example of this. I've had some trainers say to me, like, yeah, I can take on 4 board and trains a month. But if I'm taking on like a severe case, I can only really take on like that dog and like maybe one other, but depending on the severity, I may just want to be able to like not have other dogs around that dog because of the liability. And it's like, yeah, it all depends on the reason that you're doing this. I understand you may want to help that dog and you're doing that for a different reason, and it's not all about the money. But if your goal is to grow a profitable business, you may have to come to terms with the fact that like there are other people who have better setups and are more capable of handling that aggressive dog because they're not putting their dog in a kennel in their living room with their kids and other dogs and stuff like that. And by taking on that dog and only having that one dog in for the month, even if they're paying you $5,500, you've now just taken up 4 spots with one dog. So yeah, you made
Mhm.
$5,500 sale or even a $6,000 sale. But it's like if you were just stamping out these advanced obedience 4-week programs, and they're $1,000 a week, it's like you're sacrificing 10 grand because you sign up a dog for 6K, but you could have made 16. And so at a certain point, I think that this is what you need to decide on at a certain point. It's like, what do I do and what do I not do? And again, I think sometimes people feel like it's a really difficult decision to make, or it's really hard to actually, it's one thing to think about this. It's another thing to actually follow through with it. When you meet somebody who has a dog who's dealing with these problems and you're like, I can make a $6,000 sale right now. But the problem is, on the back end, you're really sacrificing a lot of business. And so, yeah, I think you just have to be steadfast in your beliefs and like understand who you're actually trying to serve and not serve. And this is
Mhm.
why having good marketing matters, because we all know that like when you don't have an abundance of leads, the problem is you fall into this like mindset of scarcity and like, I need to make this sale right now and I need to take the money while I can get it because I don't know where the next client or the next lead is going to come from. And I need to put food on the table for myself and my family this week. And so when you have better marketing and you have an abundance of lead flow, it just allows you to actually have an ICP, an insane clown posse. It just allows you to actually be more particular, like with who you serve, who you choose to serve, and not just
Mhm.
try and, take the low hanging fruit, so to speak.
Yeah, I am actually guilty of that. Like, whenever I would take on like an aggression case or any really sort of like intense behavioral case is, but for me, it was for a different reason. It was because of burnout. Just because, like, with those types of cases, depending on what it is, like, you just have to be so much more vigilant with yourself and with that dog in terms of like maybe even their behavior in the kennel around other dogs, around, the public, your kids if you have kids and stuff like that. And so for me, it was burnout. And so I generally had like a number of dogs that I would take in per month. But if I had in a behavioral case, then I would generally take in like one less just general obedience dog. Or once I was done with that dog, then the next month I might take like one less dog just to have a little bit of a break. And yeah, like I realized I was taking a little bit of a cut because I wasn't taking in as many dogs as what I would normally take in. But at the same time, like, hey, I enjoyed those types of cases. And I also, it was still very rewarding for me because I would, form even closer bonds with those clients because their dogs are so stressful and causing so much stress in the household. And so it's still very rewarding for me that I'm able to help those people. But yeah, on the back end, it was a little bit of a cut for me financially and mentally.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can relate.
Yeah. And so, I've made that mistake myself, right? Where you're like, I just want to make a sale, so I'll just take this person on, And you're like, oh, I know you've done that. But the truth is though, that like it's one thing for me when I first started this business and I was doing my everything myself. And I'm like, yeah, they're kind of a difficult client. They're asking for this like really tailored type of like marketing thing or something like that. That's gonna be like many meetings and stuff like that, and not something we really do, but I can like find a way to make it work or something like that. But what I noticed about that is like it's one thing for me to do that and take that responsibility on myself, but it's another thing to be like, okay, I signed somebody up. All right, client success team, go have fun with this. And you're like, dude, what the actual f? Who did you give me here? But yeah, I mean, I turn people away pretty frequently now, I would say, just because, I was saying this to our new hire, Anna Marie, where I was like, my goal in life is not to build the biggest business in the world and sacrifice our peace and our serenity as a company. We like working with people that we can actually help. And ironically, what I found by that is like every time I try and force growth and I like sign people up, it's like it takes me longer to recover from that and actually loses our company money. Because what I'm doing is like spending all this time trying to like nurture this client who's like a massive pain in the ass. And what I always think about is like one bad client takes up the same amount of energy as like 20 good clients. 20 good clients, you get ads running for them, you help them plug in with your coaching system, a good sales process. They're off to the races. They're doing consultations. They're selling 4 board and trains in a month. They're doing some private lessons. They're doing 15, 20K. And they're like, this was the best decision I ever made. And then you get other people who are like, well, I just don't want to like sell. I just feel like that's a time waster to like go meet with people. What if they don't buy? It's like, and you're trying to like overcome that objection, and you're trying to like teach them how sales actually works and stuff like that. And they won't give themselves to it. They're not open-minded enough to try something else. And the really horrible part about that, I'm sure dog trainers face this as well, is like people who don't want to do the work, people who don't want to actually train their dog. And then they expect you just to be the silver bullet that fixes all their problems. It's like, not only can you not work with that, but at the end of it, they're not going to be happy. And all they're going to be asking for is their money back. So you just spent 4 weeks with their dog, training their dog, and they're never going to do the things. Or you spent a month working with somebody trying to help them grow their business, but they don't see the importance on answering their phone or, setting consultations and having a sales process. And at the end of it, they're like the conclusion that they arrived with at, like right or wrong, is this didn't work. I want my money back. And it's like, you spent all this time, you poured all this energy into this thing and this relationship just to have it not work. And so, yeah, like it feels good to make the sale and like, great, I just made another sale. But in the long term, it's just not the way that you're going to grow a sustainable, successful business. And just to go back to what I said before, it's the most effective way to ruin your company culture. And I've seen that with people who they're like, no one wants to stick around. Everyone wants to just go do their thing. It's like, let me tell you why people leave your company. They don't get paid enough, and you make them do shit they don't want to do. If you don't do those two things and people feel like they're valued in their company, they have room to grow, they have room to make more money, and they like the people that they work with, why would they leave? I mean, every once in a while you have that person who's just like dying to be an entrepreneur themselves. You should probably find that out in the hiring process too. Like if they tell you like, I want to start a dog training company of my own one day, like you might want to factor that in. Is this the person that I want to hire? Because they're just going to up and leave. Nothing wrong with anybody starting their own company. We've all done that if you're the owner of a business. But yeah, I mean, this is just a big word salad at this point. But I just feel like, this is stuff that I've noticed over the years. And yeah, it's really important to identify like who is going to be a good hire? Why are they going to be a good hire? Who is going to be a good client? Why are they going to be a good client? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's definitely relatable to dog trainers. Because, like you talked about, you use the example of taking someone on as a client and you have their dog for an entire month, but then maybe the owner isn't doing work and then they end up being convinced that the dog isn't trained, even though it's on them. They're not keeping up with the training afterwards, and then suddenly they want a refund and stuff. But sometimes it starts like in the consultation, where, and I've had this happen too, where maybe someone is just like a little bit rude right off the bat and very set in their ways, and they're kind of trying to tell you how you're going to train their dog, and they're just like not open to change in their lifestyle in order to help their dog. They're just really not open to anything, but they're like, I want this to be done, and I want this to be done, and I want this to be done, like this is how it's going to be. No, I don't have to do this. I don't have to deal with you as a client, even though you're willing to pay me $3,000 to $5,000. I don't have to work with a person like you. Like, yes, you are paying me to help you, but I need you to also be open minded and be willing to make some changes on your end, so that way we can work together. It's the same thing as like what we're talking about with kind of like what we're looking for is just like, what are your goals? And yes, we can help with that, but also like, what is your mindset like? Are you willing to do the things that we're promising you are going to help, as long as you're putting in the work on your end too?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely relatable for dog trainers.
Yeah, and I think that's what like selling your soul for money really is. You know, it's like I'm going to compromise on my morals and my principles just for money.
Hmm.
And, you know, being a believer in God, what I've realized is that like every time I turn something like that down where I'm going to compromise on my morals and do something just for money, it always bites me in the ass. And every time I do something that's like the moral correct decision, I get repaid tenfold. Like better
Hmm.
clients come along, you know, you actually have the time to pour into the people you can actually help. And then because you're pouring into the people you can actually help, they get really good results. And then they want to go tell more people about you, or they're happy to give you a review, a testimonial, a client success interview that you can really market and stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, it really comes down to like being unwavering in your confidence to just be like, I'm not going to work with somebody that I turned somebody down 2 days ago, you know, because I talked to them and I'm like, you just look at us. You're looking at me already like hired help. And you don't view this as a partnership. You're calling me already, you know, questioning our prices. You're calling me, you know, telling me what you need. You have no open mindedness to like doing it a different way, and it's just kind of feel like you're barking orders at me, and it's like I couldn't even help you if I wanted to. And so what I just
Hmm.
tell people like that is like I don't say you're not going to be a good fit for us. I say we're not going to be a good fit for you. I do that for
Hmm.
a couple of reasons. I feel like it's a more polite way, and I just don't want to deal with the drama of someone saying like, you know, you don't get into the club, you know, they're going to, ironically, that just makes people want it even more. If you tell them like, hey, you actually can't come work with us, they're like, well, now I really want to.
Hmm.
But the truth is, I just tell people I don't think we're going to be a good fit for you. You're looking for something that we don't offer, and keep it at that. And at the end of the day, you're going to feel much better. You cannot compromise, and there's no world in which it's worth giving away your peace and your serenity in order to make money, because the money's not even yours. It's
Hmm.
just going to be refunded at a certain point, you know,
Yeah.
or you're going to deal with it in loss of revenue moving forward because you get a negative review from that client. And so it's like trust and believe that, you know, in God, that there's something better is coming for you. And that because you operate that way on a better, higher frequency, that, yeah, you'll be repaid and your business will succeed because of that. It won't be at the detriment of your business. You know, it'll
Yeah.
be to the benefit of your business.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Anything else you want to add to that, Angel?
Uh, no, I think you said everything perfectly.
All right, sweet. Well, we can close it out there then. I always joke with you and say, I know that Angel's done with these podcasts when she's like, yeah, exactly. Okay. All
Yep.
good to go.
Yep. Let's go ahead and wrap her up now.
Yeah. All right, sweet. Well, I feel like this turned out to be a great episode. So I hope you guys got some value out of this. And yeah, I mean, if there's anything that you guys want to hear us talk about, let me know. I've been producing more YouTube videos. Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook or Spotify to head on over to YouTube, check out some of that stuff, because I'm posting videos on exactly stuff that I pretty much am, giving to our clients and teaching to people about growing dog training businesses. So head on over there if you're feeling like you're stuck at all in your business. Got really good content over there. And we appreciate the support as always. And we will see you guys all very soon in the next video. See you guys.
Bye, guys.